It is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, and today we have a packed show, honestly. So, first off, we'll have a little bit of an update on how the schedules are going to go from here on out because I think I found a better way to do things, okay? You'll notice there's still a mess in the background. Forgive it. I'm trying. We're getting moved still. We're still finishing everything up, getting things put where we want them to be. But you'll notice that the collection of shit back there keeps growing. So, we're, uh, we're working on it. I have entirely too much stuff that I know what to do with. Um, but with all that said, we have a lot to talk about today. And welcome in. This is Armchair Analysis. If you're new around here, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new as well. We are at 201 subscribers. Let's keep growing. Let's try to get us to 300 by the end of the college football season, including the college football playoffs, which we'll be covering extensively here on this show. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you tune in. We greatly appreciate your presence around here. With that said, um, a little bit of a channel update real quick. Let's just get it out of the way bright and early here. Um, we're going to be switching to a 6-day-a-week format. Look, Monday shows have just typically ended up being a little bit pointless at times. Not a lot of news comes out. If we see like a big coach firing or something, we'll come in on Monday and talk about that, I suppose. But more than likely, Monday is just going to be left open from here on out. I have found that it's easier for me to get more topics into the Tuesday show and put a better Tuesday show together, and really better to combine the two than it is anything else. So that's what I'm going to go with going forward. We're going to see how that works out, see if that works better. I hope it does. Really excited to see if maybe it flows a little differently. Everything else stays the same. We'll still be Tuesday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the live streams at 10 a.m. Eastern time on both those. Those aren't going anywhere. That's not changing. Really just excited to move forward with this process and move forward here. Yes, that is the cutest thing in the world right there. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into the main topics of this show, and it's going to start in Blacksburg, Virginia. Virginia Tech has hired James Franklin to be there. I can't get over that. I'm sorry. That's um, man. Anyways, what a distraction that is. Virginia Tech's going to hire James Franklin as their next head coach. I think that's a big deal. It's awesome. First off, James Franklin's a conference championship winning head coach at Penn State. He won the 2016 Big Ten title. People forget that because Ohio State made the playoff over them. A little controversial that was, but it didn't really matter. Neither of them teams were going to compete with what Alabama and Clemson were putting on the field. But James Franklin's done well. And prior to this year, which led to a colossal fall off after the loss to Oregon, then you lose Drew Aller later, and really that was kind of the nail in the coffin for James Franklin's time at Penn State. They realized they were not going to get where they wanted to be. If they weren't going to win a championship this year, they weren't going to win a championship at all. And they were this close last year, making their way to the college football playoff semifinals last season, losing by a field goal to Notre Dame, who would ultimately lose to Ohio State, the eventual champs. James Franklin, I don't think is a bad coach. I think it's a bad rap because of his record against top 25 opponents, his record against top 10 opponents, even more specifically. And that's okay. Like, I understand where that's coming from, but as a head coach, in terms of what you expect and what you get out of him, it's consistency. They win games. They win the games they're supposed to in most cases, and they lose the games that sometimes they're supposed to. Or sometimes they just lose the game because they get outplayed. And that happens. But at Virginia Tech, the standard is 7 to 10 wins if they can get there. And that's putting it lightly because they've dealt with much less than that over the last handful of years as it is. Frank Beamer was never a great coach against top 15 opponents. Nobody's really expecting that here for Virginia Tech, but what they're expecting is to compete for conference titles. They're expecting to put themselves in position to make the playoff every couple of years. And I think that's kind of where the drawback or the I guess criticism is that they think James Franklin can't do this. Nobody in the ACC is far and away above the other, and that includes a team like Clemson or Miami, maybe, but that's because they're winning the NIL game. They're not winning, they're not even winning on the field. They're losing games they shouldn't lose. So, to me, if you're going to ask James Franklin to do anything, you're asking for 7 to 10 wins with a chance to make the playoffs and win the ACC. That's all you're asking for. You're asking to be in contention. I think the hire puts them in contention. Is it going to do it next year? No. But here's the thing. James Franklin recruits the area well. We've talked about that plenty, recruits the Northeast very well. It's going to help him out a lot when it comes to things here. He's going to keep guys in North Carolina and Virginia. He's going to keep guys in Virginia and Virginia. He's going to go up to New Jersey and New York and pick out players from there too. And they're going to have a solid program that they're going to put together and win games. It's going to look a lot like what Pitt's doing right now. It's going to look a lot like what Louisville does right now. Wake Forest is looking like they're going to be a team that does that going forward if they can play the NIL game. So is Duke, North Carolina. That's who you're competing with. You're telling me that Virginia Tech can't be better than any of them? They've done it. They've been there before. To me, this is a good hire. This is one that's consistent. This is one that's going to be, I think, a winning move. I think this is kind of one of those moves where James Franklin's going there and he's going to finish his career at Virginia Tech. So that's how I feel about it. I'm excited to see what they do next year, what they look like, how they hit the portal, how they recruit going forward. They're getting the head start on it early. They got their guy immediately. So this is probably the earliest head coaching hire I've ever seen. So we'll see how the carousel keeps moving going forward. I know there's a lot of teams that wanted James Franklin, or at least kind of courted that option. Virginia Tech made an offer, and it also affects the buyout at Penn State. I think it drops down to $9 million for the buyout for Penn State. It's a win-win on both sides. James Franklin stays coaching and stays coaching in a good area, an area where he can win, and Penn State gets to go look for their next coach with a little bit less money on the table. So let me know what you guys think. I know there's going to be there's a lot of James Franklin haters out there, but I think that this is a consistent move for what Virginia Tech is and wants to be. So let me know your thoughts down there in the comments section below. With that said, let's talk about other controversial topics. I got a top 25 for you guys that you always agree with, right? So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Week 13's top 25 welcomes 4 group of 5 teams to the slate. Surprisingly, but that's what it does. I have been impressed with those 4. We'll talk about them here in a minute, but let's talk about Ohio State at number 1. It's not even close. If A&M could have just continued doing what they're doing, sure. That game last week really, really turned me the wrong way with A&M, but not in a bad way. Not a bad way. We're not out on them. We'll talk more about that game here in a minute. But Ohio State, a clear-cut number 1. Indiana's taking care of business. They're number 2. A&M sleptwalked through a half of football and came back and won that game. You can't do that every week. You certainly won't be able to do that again. I think everybody's going to be on to that idea. A&M's okay. I don't really see anything going wrong for them. They'll continue to win. They'll be 11-0 next week when they go into that Black Friday game against Texas. Oregon at number 4. I debated Oregon, Georgia, Ole Miss where I wanted them. I've had Oregon ahead of Georgia and Ole Miss the whole time. I'm going to keep them there. I don't have a strong ground to stand on. I'm going to be completely honest with you there. It's where I've been with them. That's where I'm going to keep them for the time being. I'll probably change it. The hell, things could change this week because I got a top 15 matchup for Oregon this week. Georgia and Ole Miss at 5 and 6, they stay where they're at because Georgia beat Ole Miss, and they have the same record. They keep winning their games. Georgia will stay ahead. Notre Dame moves up to 7. I think they're the best 2-loss team in the country. I remain on that stance. Their dominance over Pitt helped me out a little bit even further. Oklahoma moves up to 8. They have to go ahead of Alabama. They have the same record. They have a win over Alabama in Tuscaloosa. How do you go away from that? And we can talk more about this game. If this was a power rating, Alabama would be way higher. Alabama had 3 turnovers in this game. I think doubled yardage from Oklahoma in the game. Alabama should have won this game. The statistics say they win this game if you take away the turnovers. But, I have sayings about ifs, but we're not going there right now. Alabama should have won that game. It comes down to turnovers, mistakes. They didn't win the game. Plain and simple. Oklahoma moves up to number 8. Texas Tech's at 10. Still right where I am on them. I still think they're a great team. I still think they're going to make a run in the playoffs. I have a hard time judging where they truly are right now. USC's at 11. I like where USC is. They continue to win football games. They are playing really good football. They're matching physicality. They had a big comeback win over Iowa last week. They continue to rise. I corrected it this week. BYU is ahead of Utah on the graphic. They were ahead of Utah the whole time, but the graphic messed up. Blame computers. BYU goes to 12. Utah at 13. I think they're the 2 teams. Like, if we're likely to get a second Big 12 team, it's one of these 2. Excited to see who it will be. Michigan at 14. They keep winning games, and I'm going to be honest with you. We talked about Alabama, how they should have won that game and how they played a great game of football. Just the turnovers. That's the same thing for Michigan. 5 turnovers. They lost the turnover battle 5-0 to Northwestern and won by 2. A lot of those turnovers came on drives that were sustained and were pushing for points. This game looked a lot like it did last year, just with turnovers included, and it shows how important they are. Because this went from what could have been a 45 to 15 type of game to a 24-22 Michigan just barely escapes game. Nobody's impressed with what Michigan did last week, and nobody should be. But understand that that's the first time we've seen Michigan approach 500 yards in a long time, especially when they were as balanced as they were. They threw for over 250. This is a team that's finally figuring themselves out a little bit. Sometimes it takes mistakes. Sometimes it takes being a little over aggressive in a game that you should win to really figure out where you are and where your limits are. I think they were fine. I'm not selling them out as much as I did the other day. I was very, very frustrated. Everybody knows I'm a Michigan fan. Michigan fan first and foremost, right? When it comes to my Saturday affiliations, but I can put it away during the game, and I was ready to drop Michigan to 20, even out of the top 25. I was very frustrated. But I looked more into the stats. I watched the game back, and I said, okay, this team moved the ball. This team did everything they were supposed to do. They just turned it over too much. Michigan at 14, I think, is a very solid spot to land right now. Miami sits at 15. They're still in contention. I think the playoffs are still on the table for them. ACC title still on the table for them. Texas at 16. They lost to Georgia. They got dominated, really. They just kind of looked like the Texas team that we saw in the Ohio State game. It looked like the Texas team that we saw when they played Mississippi State for a half. It looked like the Texas we saw against Florida, Texas we saw against Kentucky, the struggle, get our way through the game. And this should be a 4 or 5 loss team the way they've played, but they've talented their way out of it. They've utilized their talent to get out of it. They're at 16, staying ahead of Vanderbilt. They beat Vandy. I'm not fully bought in on Vanderbilt winning out yet. So they're at 17. Houston's at 18. I think they're a good team. I just don't think they're quite better than the rest here. Missouri's at 19 for me. I really like this team, and I still think they're a good team. As a matter of fact, we're previewing that game here in a minute. We'll talk more about it here. Georgia Tech at 20. I'm having a hard time forgiving the fact that they're really squeaking by in a lot of these games that they should be winning by more. Georgia Tech's at 20. James Madison 21, favorite in the G5 right now. Virginia 22, dominated Duke. They just stay where they're at. North Texas moves up to 23, Navy at 24 with a big win over USF, and San Diego State enters my top 25 at number 25, and it's just they played so well. Multiple shutouts on the year. Their defense has been fantastic this season. But it's not just their defense that I think has been what we really look at. The progression of Jaden Denegal so far this year and fitting into this Sean Lewis style of offense has really pushed the envelope for San Diego State to really be a dark horse contender for the playoff. It's going to take a lot of things, and I don't actually believe that they're going to make the playoff, but I do think they are a team that's worthy of being ranked. I think they've played great football. Their defense dominates. They dominated Boise State, which I know they're missing Maddox Madsen, but it's still a dominant effort. And they've done it all year round. They've also shut out Power 4 Cal. And Cal's played well in the ACC. Cal's got a win over Louisville just a couple weeks ago. So, for me, San Diego State, I think, deserves to be ranked in the top 25 right now. I'm very impressed with what they do and how they do it. I think they're the favorites to win the Mountain West. So, let me know. Iowa and Louisville dropped out of our top 25 here this week. With that said, let's go ahead and roll a preview for you. Oklahoma and Missouri face off this weekend in Norman. Noon kickoff on ABC, 11 a.m. local. Oklahoma 7.5 point favorites as currently the number 11 team. That's going to change tonight. They'll probably be up in the top 10. Missouri, I would like to see them ranked, but I get it. I get why they might not be. But over-under sits at 42.5, and that's a number we're going to be pointing out here a little bit today. You look at these two teams, and here's where it lies. Strength on strength. Missouri, 241 rushing yards per game. Just last week, Ahmad Hardy ran for 300. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Ahmad Hardy ran for 300 yards against Mississippi State last week. Oklahoma allows 82 yards per game on the ground. Will Missouri be able to get the push up front? The defensive fronts in this game on both sides are very intriguing to me. They both bring a lot of talent to the table, a lot of potential for game wrecking, for wreaking havoc. This game is going to be won at the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be won by whoever controls the pass rush and can also get the ground game going. Because I don't think Oklahoma can win playing the way they did last week. I stand by that statement. They can't win doing what they did last week. And here's the thing. This has been a year, really since John Mateer got hurt type of problem. They have not been able to get the ball moving through the air at all. The ground game is inconsistent, to say the very least. They had 74 rushing yards last week. 74, 2.6 yards per carry. The last time they had a game that bad was 1.6 against Texas, 1.2 against Auburn. They're facing a front seven that has that same talent level. They're facing a Missouri team that will slow the run game down. And then it's going to be, can they get in the passing game? Can they create pressure on John Mateer? And the answer is going to be yes, because teams have done it all year long. The other problem is that John Mateer has not thrown the ball worth anything. 138 passing yards last week against Alabama. 159 2 weeks ago against Tennessee, who has been Swiss cheese in the secondary. 148 against South Carolina, who, I don't know if you guys watched the second half of last week's game, but that's a pretty poor number there as well. 223 against Ole Miss was the best game they had on 7 yards per attempt. They've not been very good since the John Mateer injury. He sat out the Kent State game, and they threw for 170, but they ran for 185. They've not been throwing the ball very well at all since John Mateer got hurt. And it's going to require them to throw the football, I think. Here's the other problem. Missouri's secondary is really good, too. We're talking strength on strength. The strength for Missouri is going to, I think, overpower the strength for Oklahoma in their passing game, because they haven't had one for 6 weeks now. Yeah, 6 weeks. They haven't had a passing game. Oklahoma's going to have to win the turnover battle. They won 3-0 last week against Alabama, and that's what won them this game. That's what won them the game in Tuscaloosa. Are we going to just ignore that? Are we going to act like that didn't happen? That those turnovers didn't alter the game? They were possessions that Alabama had potential to score on. Completely turned that game on its head. If you play this game again, as a matter of fact, as far as I've seen and read, Alabama still actually moved up to a touchdown or more favorite over Oklahoma in the power ratings, simply because of how they played, and they doubled up the yardage of Oklahoma. They turned the ball over. Those turnovers are plays of luck in a lot of cases. Certainly they're forced at times, but plays that require a little bit of luck, with which we don't see. I mean, Alabama had a fumble on the punt return from Ryan Williams. They had interceptions from Ty Simpson, and one of them was in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken. Oklahoma's going to have to win the turnover battle. Missouri's going to have to run the ball. That's the story here, though. They're going to have to run the ball. They got to take some pressure off of Matt Zollers. He's a young quarterback. This is going to be his first real test as a quarterback. Can he get the job done? Can he do what is necessary of him and what is asked of him for them to win this game? I think it's going to be a very resounding yes, he will. I think he's going to have some struggles. I think there is going to be a turnover in this game or two. But I think Oklahoma's going to have one or two as well. And when we talk an even turnover battle, I think Missouri has an advantage in this game. This is a long shot from where I was preseason on Missouri, right? Everybody had their comments on what I had to say about this Mizzou team, but it was true. It was what I believed, and I think I stand by it for the most part. We just got more of Ahmad Hardy than we expected, and we really saw quarterbacks step up and progress over the offseason. With all this said, I think Missouri covers 7.5. I think the under hits in this game, and I think Missouri gets the upset in Norman this weekend. I think Missouri is going to win this game 20-13. It's going to come down to the fact that Oklahoma is not going to be able to do and replicate what they did last week against a team that has the same talent on defense, if not maybe a better defense, 169 pass yards allowed per game. That's one of the best in the country, and they are really, really solid at what they do there. But it's that run defense too. If they and Oklahoma doesn't run the ball as it is, like 130 yards per game, they don't run the ball against a good front. This Missouri team is a good front. I mean, this plays really into Missouri's hands. If we're watching this game closely, Missouri's going to win this game. So Missouri covers 7.5. Under 42.5. Again, Missouri wins 20-13. That is my prediction for this weekend's game. So let me know who you're taking. Do you think Oklahoma keeps their playoff hopes alive, or do they get eliminated this weekend following what was a huge win in Tuscaloosa last week? Love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure you're here tomorrow. Tomorrow we're previewing Oregon and USC. I'm very excited for that game. We will have that video out as well. We also we'll react to the college football playoff rankings, kind of what we saw from those, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. So appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow with another episode of Armchair Analysis.